So,
What is this?
it's a Mercedes-Benz. And it's an E-Class. And I'm driving it. But it's not any E-Class. This is my first Mercedes-Benz review, by the way, because he hogs all the Mercedes. So he finally let me do a review. This is the E-Class E53 AMG for 2021.
So I hear some pretty good noises. What's in it?
So this is a 6-cylinder, 3-liter engine, twin turbo, and it is a mild hybrid. It produces 429 horsepower and 384 pound-feet of torque, which means it hauls ass.
What transmission does it have?
So it has the TCT.
Which in German means twin clutch transmission.
Yeah. So I had to make sure I realized that, because I was about to say DCT, but that was wrong.
So how does it shift?
I'll have to say this is probably the fastest transmission I've used.
No, it isn't.
Well, for me it is.
You've tried PDKs. They're much faster for Porsches.
Well, you had the PDK, not me. And
tried
I
that
didn't
one?
really get to push that one, no. So for me right now, this is the fastest that I've used so far.
You know what I really like about this transmission? That when you're driving it in comfort mode around town, it's actually on purpose, it's a bit slower, so it's smoother. Like especially the transition between drive and reverse, like when you change direction, it's pretty slow. But then when you put it in sport mode and you gun it, it's really quick. And that's what I really like.
Downshifting as well, it immediately gets you into gear and you don't feel a big thud. It actually gets you into gear immediately and you go.
So I'm gonna put the car in sport and then I'm gonna open the exhaust port here. Let's give it a shot. Let's see. And the brakes are pretty good too, right?
Brakes are awesome. Brakes are awesome.
From 100 kilometers, I tested it. Stopped in 38 meters. It has really nice beefy Brembos in the front. Not so much in the back. They're more simple, but you know, they're drilled rotors. Mercedes always has good brakes. How does the pedal feel?
Pedal feels awesome. So the brake pedal gives you just enough, so it's not an immediate stop. It actually gives you a bit of give, and then eventually grabs the actual
Does it
brake.
feel spongy or is it linear?
No, it's very linear.
So this sounds pretty cool. What's the damage?
This E53 AMG starts at $90,000 and it goes up from there.
And this specific one with all these nice goodies is?
So it's $113,350, I think, as spec.
Sweet. So it's not cheap.
Well, you do get a lot of car.
So we've already established that it goes 0 to 100 kilometers an hour. It's supposed to come in 4.5 seconds. We measured 4.6, which is close enough. Power delivery is pretty good, right? Like when you hammer it, it responds instantly. And
So there's very little turbo lag from what I can notice. You accelerate off the go and it literally starts pulling you immediately. You can feel it incrementally going faster and faster. It's actually pretty awesome.
it doesn't really run out of breath, so up high it still pulls hard, right?
Oh yeah.
So this one doesn't have drift mode compared to the 63, which does. But what it can do, the 4Matic Plus, is it can send up to 100% power to the back, which like the regular 4Matics can't. So combined with the advanced or the professional ESP level that you can have here, it helps you go quite fast. But it still always maintains some control, unless you completely turn it off and then you're on your own.
Well, like this.
So does all this performance come at a really big price to fuel consumption?
12 liters per 100 kilometers, man.
That's not bad for what it is. And that's like mostly city, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've got my 335 that consumes more than that. I mean, obviously it's older, but for this spec, this car, this class, that's actually pretty good.
So I recently had the E63 AMG wagon version of this, and I really liked it. And I especially liked the fact that, you know, the steering was pretty good and it actually drove really sporty. So the suspension was really up to the job. Now, this car, I understand, also has that Airmatic, whatever, they don't call it Airmatic anymore, but it's like the air suspension AMG. So how does it feel when you drive it hard?
Well, first thing, that's standard. So they've got like a mild version of the full air suspension. Well, this is a
Not
Sport
mild,
2.
lightweight, they call it.
Okay, sure. So lightweight, It's tuned by AMG, so it's a much more aggressive, sturdy sort of setup between Comfort, Sport, and Sport Plus. But in the corners, you feel it's stuck to the ground. It doesn't give. It keeps you very, very put on your path. It keeps the line that you're driving.
Yeah.
It's pretty...
So I noticed that under hard turning, first of all, turn in was very precise. So the car really was eager to turn. The front axle gripped really well, so there was no understeer whatsoever. There was a hint of oversteer going into the turn, but then the ESP was kind of limiting it like to a very minor slip angle, and it held it there. So I have to say that the stability control in this car works really well in the sport or the more advanced mode. I think it doesn't take away any of the driving enjoyment. So for what it is, I'm surprised. It drove much nicer than I thought it would, and I really like that steering wheel.
I love the steering wheel.
Steering feel, not completely disconnected, right? Especially in the sporty modes, it gets a bit heavier.
No, it gets
nicer,
very
right?
heavy. The weight is perfect. You get into sport mode and it actually flips back real quick, see?
Yeah.
So I think the steering and the way they've engineered that is quite well.
I like the shortcuts on the bottom where you can change the
I don't.
what and
I don't
quick
really like
access.
that.
I don't find it very useful, but I like it.
I like the quick access. I just don't like the buttons. I don't know why. I'm not used to it.
It's Porsche mode. Like Porsche does this with little round knobs with it,
but
stuff.
I don't know.
So what happens when you put it in comfort mode? Does it actually ride well? Like when you're not, when your adrenaline is taken care of and you're calm, how does it drive?
It drives nice. I think it needs to be a little softer when you're in comfort mode. It's still
I agree.
pretty aggressive. So keep in mind it's an AMG car, so it's tuned for that. But if you're thinking it's going to get nice and soft and comfy like you would a full Airmatic suspension, it won't.
That's the difference between this Airmatic, that it doesn't have the really big bag, so it can't like make the car go up and down and stuff like that. It does self-level, so when you're cornering, it will soften up the inside, so it will keep the car more level. And
like
then when you straighten out, it kind of, So it doesn't, a lot of people think that it pumps air into the outside, but that would be too slow. So what it does is it just releases pressure from the inside to make this side like go down. So I think it works very well. It's just not that, it can't change that much, right? Although it does have an upper hand on everybody else that just does dynamic dampers, because this can change the dampers and the springs, which in this case are the airbags, right? So I think overall it works well, but I think you nailed it. In comfort mode, it should have been a little bit softer because it's still a little bit too hard.
Not much. A little bit more.
Tiny bit.
I would have liked it to be softer.
Yeah. So I really like the design of the interior. They've used really high quality materials everywhere. This carbon fiber looks phenomenal.
Hold on.
Okay.
But
yeah, I was going to get
classic
to that.
creak.
And it's not only when you touch panels that they creak. It's also, for example, if you like resting your leg on the center console, like when you're turning, if you hit a bump, like your leg will cause creaking from the center console, right? And then we did notice a rattle from somewhere in the back, so it's not completely silent.
Yeah.
So I have to say, looks-wise, and when you're feeling stuff up, whatever, it's really good, but I think that Mercedes now is not as good as Audi and BMW. I think
you're right.
They're kind of trailing behind.
Yeah, but I have to say, so we got the negative out of the way. The positive is the combination of carbon fiber stitching, the accented brushed aluminum, looks fantastic. It's like you're getting into a car that's ready for the club, and it's just polished to perfection. I can't get over how much I love the interior and the accents that they've done.
It's very fancy, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, at $100,000, you better be, right? But I mean, I've been in cars where they're over $100,000 and they don't look this nice.
They're like dark inside. Yeah, for sure.
The only cons, though, are if we get into some of the infotainment pieces, is that it is complex as hell.
But it does have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, unfortunately only wired, which sucks because it has a wireless charging pad in there, but your phone is now plugged into the wire, which means it's not using the wireless charging pad.
Well, it's not using wireless anything. I mean, this is equipped with NFC, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and I'm shocked that it doesn't have wireless CarPlay. I would have thought that's the first thing you'd have in this car at this price, and it doesn't. But it's okay. The other thing, though, speaking of CarPlay, I would have liked to see the screen extended to use the full real estate of the screen, but it doesn't.
Yeah, other companies do it better, that's for sure. Full screen, Android Auto, and CarPlay. So ergonomically, not the best.
No.
Visually, fantastic. Ergonomically, yeah. How about the seats and comfort now? Let's talk about roominess. Because the seat is actually pretty bloody awesome.
I love it.
And it's heated and ventilated. And the rear seats are also heated.
Heated as well. And heated panels, like in the front side of the car, driver's side.
Rear roominess, really good for legs and heads. The ceiling is also a little bit indented to give you some extra headroom. Underneath the seats, because we both put the seats all the way to the bottom, the foot doesn't really fit to go underneath, but it's you have decent space, so that's not so much of an issue. The center tunnel, though, is an issue. It's pretty big because it has to give the power to the back. However, passengers in the back do get USB-C ports like the rest of the car, so all the ports here are USB-C, so you better buy some adapters for your cables. The trunk is really freaking huge, 540 liters. Power tailgate, so all good there, really usable. When you brought this car and I looked at it, I was like, for some reason, it wasn't as wow as the wagon, the E53, but even the wagon wasn't that impressive visually. I think Mercedes has really toned down the exterior looks, at least in these dark colors. So I don't know about you, but for me, it's very nice, but it's not a kind of car that will turn any heads, I think.
So let's start with the front end. The front end is very understated in my opinion. They could have made it a lot more aggressive looking, but then again, do you want it to be? It's an E-Class. It's a luxury sedan.
But it's an AMG.
It doesn't matter. AMG just means...
It matters for me.
Well, good for you. It still has the LED front headlights. Side of the car looks very sedanish. I mean, nothing special, but like a Greek, I like the rear of the car, and it's my favorite. Just because, shut up, it looks a lot more elegant than it would in the front. It seems mismatched, in my opinion.
So when you want to come inside the car, do you open the trunk, crawl inside, then put the rear seats down and come all the way to the driver's seat? Because that would make you a true Greek, to enter from the rear. It's not a light car either. It weighs 1,969 kilos, and you can kind of feel it under circumstances. Did we mention that it comes with the MBUX infotainment system, which means that you can say, "Hey Mercedes, the driver is feeling hot."
I'm sorry, but I can't help you with that right now.
See? So if your partner is mute and he can't talk, you can't talk for him in the Mercedes.
Well, hey Mercedes, I'm cold.
I'm increasing the temperature to 21 degrees.
So that worked,
Yeah.
but that's about all that worked.
So all in all, what's your overall score out of 10, and would you recommend to somebody to buy this?
I would give this a solid 8.5. And as much as I don't like the infotainment and ergonomics, I still like the looks, the drive, the smoothness, performance, everything. Everything else about this car is really well rounded and still very exciting.
The thing I don't like about this car is obviously some quality issues, like with this creaking and cracking, which every Mercedes does nowadays. That's the one thing I don't like. And the other thing is that it doesn't really pop. So when you're driving somewhere, you know, if I pay $120,000 for a car after taxes and everything, I want people to know. I don't want to drive by and people not noticing. So that's the one thing I kind of don't really like. But then again, it's up to that's subjective, right? Every person.
Or you could be like me. You want to sneak into the crowd with something that's a little bit of a sleeper.
Yeah, true.
So it depends on who you are and how much money you got.
True. On that bombshell, if you like this video, please remember to subscribe, share it with your friends, leave us a comment, whatever. You know what to do. Until next time, be well.
See ya.
Perfect. Perfect.